With Phase 1 complete, the returning admiral wondered how the next phase was going to go. Then he grinned to himself at the idea. The idea that the enemy's own decadence was about to take a massive hit. Throughout written history, certain strategies just stick out. When taking out one person, you always want to be quick, quiet, and ensure that all evidence disappears. With a group, especially on the ground, an ambush is the most effective. Hit them before they can hit back. When things expand to vehicles and even civilizations, logistics are your primary target. Since these species have not fought an actual war in what seems like eons according to their information, their understanding of these concepts is very, very limited. It is of note, however, that the invasion into human territory was actually fairly well thought out, at least on a tactical level. Yet everybody knows that if you lose a battle, all you do is sharpen the spears of the enemy for the next time you clash. Plus, amateurs focus on tactics, while professionals, they focus on logistics. And because of that, Phase 2 is all about logistics. The colonial fleets have been divided to hit multiple targets at the same time, striking and moving as fast as they can. Each system strike team wanted to have the best targets, but they had to settle for what had been decided on based on their own strengths. Yet, if they all got the job done right and done faster ahead of schedule, they should be able to be part of taking down the primary target. From Alpha Centauri to the Y sector, each sector sent as many ships as could be spared for these targets. These are not invasion forces, as they're not set up for that. In fact, they're set up for heavy operations, strike operations. Each group was going to be leaving with, at a minimum, 4 dreadnoughts and a dozen battleships. Their targets are going to be big, which is why they need big guns. It's a very good thing that the intel is so robust. It actually allowed for a description of all systems, all the schedules, allowing knowing exactly where and when the targets are going to be. Deep in the void, an unexpected planet looked up and saw something amazing and something horrible. They saw a third moon was in the sky, as the sky slowly faded out from day to night. But one of these moons, this new one, was getting larger. No, it was not getting larger. It was getting closer. The natives looked up and shuddered at this new moon as it extended massive mandibles, opened its maw to show rows and rows of metal teeth, also expanding out, and right before their eyes, it closed in on one of the moons. As it clamped down on the moon itself began to fall apart as the mandibles pierced in from both sides. The large pieces that broke away began to get pulled into the planet's gravity well, and fragments will soon strike down on the planet, with this planet's largest artillery strike about to crash in, and no one can stop it. Though most of this planet is covered in water, the inhabitants can't swim fast enough or deep enough to get away. Chunks the size of France crash into the planet, causing massive tsunamis that crash the inhabitants against the rocks as the waves simply cross over all the land, sweeping anything that's there off. The stones that crash into the water sink rapidly after boiling the part of the water they strike in the ocean where it landed. Some pieces even exploded due to rapid thermal contraction, causing even more death with the blast waves that have much more strength as they travel through water. Some of the inhabitants actually tried to be safe as they climbed up the mountains as fast as they could, only for large pieces of rock to come down, crashing into them and turning these rock, this mountain, this entire continent that was made of almost solid gravel into nothing but a gravel pit. Those that dove into the bottom of the oceans found that dodging these rocks was difficult at best. As fast as they swim, the massive amount of boulders and rocks continuously sank down through, either hitting them, pulling them down to the bottom, or if they were on the bottom, it would simply land on them, crushing everything underneath. Millions die from the destruction of the first moon. Millions more as the second, much larger moon is crunched by this automated harvester. The few still alive that could see this looked up and realized something, a starting realization that once this thing was done with their moons, the planet was next. They fear, they weep, they pray, and they begin to say goodbye to their loved ones, all believing that their entire species, their entire planet, everything that they have done is about to be wiped out. And that is when they see it. In the very distant twilight, they see something in the sky. It appears that stars are forming. Stars that seem to blink up bright, very, very bright, and then vanish in the black of space. They don't know what it is, but they pray that salvation is coming. The admiral of the Sirius Sea Assault Fleet cursed himself that they didn't arrive even faster. His orders were simple: save that planet! At that moment, all the dreadnoughts and battleship opened fire on the harvester. The lights from the energy weapons lit up the dark side of this planet as they passed by and began to rip into the unshielded harvester. Each ship just kept firing as they approached at flank speed. Weapon systems began to run hot as they approached the harvester, yet this time there was no explosions. But all of a sudden, there it was, the sudden drop in power. The XO reminded the captain, according to our data, there's supposed to be 2 moons. I think it must have eaten them. Perhaps that's what's protecting it. If they were just solid rock, that's what we're hitting. Realizing the power loss meant that they might have actually got lucky, the admiral ordered that the harvester be tethered and pulled away from the planet as fast as possible, preferably into the local star. This proved difficult, to say the least, as the planet's gravity well had already begun pulling this massive, mangled metal monstrosity down towards itself. Yet, they were able to get it away and save that planet. After scans, visual and otherwise, showed sentient life on the planet, the admiral had to make a call. Unfortunately, he had a timeline that he had to deal with, plus the assault group was not able to assist in some sort of refugee crisis, at least not fully. He sent down a dozen corvettes and frigates to aid the local population. The rest would move on and continue with the mission. Reason being is if they want to destroy the next harvester, they have to leave, and they have to leave now. Down on the surface of the planet they just saved, it didn't take long to understand the vastness of the devastation. In less than an hour, the captains of each of the ships that landed began to converse with each other and realize they needed to call, and they needed to call for backup quick. They needed to call assistance from the second most dangerous fleet in the known universe, the civilians of humanity. This would turn into the largest evacuation yet. An evacuation that once translated to the aquatic species on the planet, they understood what had to be done. The ecosystem of this planet was in complete shambles and needs time to recover. Time that will not be afforded to the planet if the locals stay. It takes a lot of convincing, but the locals do understand, as they're not complete morons, they're just technologically behind. The locals were not sure about this for a while, but suddenly agreed when this same shock kicked in as they saw humans for the first time. Humans that had no problem showing themselves as they realized that these locals were not their enemy. Yet, in truth, there was another reason why humans started taking off their armor, as in getting the chance to swim in an alien ocean is more than some could even think about resisting, even though it's all sorts of murky and messed up right now with all sorts of carcasses of dead fish and Lord knows what. It doesn't matter. This is a once in a millennia chance, and they're going to take it. The locals, looking at the humans as they strip off their armor, stripping all the way down out of their armor as no way thought to bring swimsuits, were surprised at the similarity in the builds between their physiology and the humans. Though they didn't understand the human hair, as they understood that it just caused drag. But then again, they looked at the humans swimming and couldn't figure out how they moved so well. They don't have fins. The locals were informed that they actually had a choice on which planet they would want to go to, as several planets do have oceans that are full of life and are completely set up exactly like this one is, with a perfect concentration of sodium chloride and water, and everything was going to be perfect. However, they needed to be very careful where they were going to go and choose which civilian vessels they would get on when they arrive. This was a choice the locals had to ponder very, very close and wanted more information. But as the humans started listing everything out, they realized, wait a minute, this is a case of deja vu, isn't it? Thankfully, this is the only planet that required rescuing, as the colonial fleets began their assault on the remaining harvesters. As it turned out, the enemy species had used 55% of their known harvesters as shields during the attack. This still left a few dozen in operation, though, a number that at this point is quickly dwindling. The colonial fleets are very effective at what they do, entering into the system en masse, making sure that they have their interdiction ships exactly where they need them to be, firing on the harvester with enough firepower to glass half a planet in about an hour, boarding what was left of the harvester to attain the AI if it's still there, then setting a few antimatter charges on the engine just to leave a nasty surprise for anybody trying to come and retrieve it. Then, once they were done, they simply got up and moved to the next target. Eventually, it all coalesced at the primary target. On the periphery of enemy space, a nearly empty sector sits there and waits. There is nothing but a star and a couple of rocks, and that's it. Yet, inside the sector, there was something else. Something large. As inside this sector, a truly massive complex can be found. A circular array of scaffolds and machinery moved in rotation around the red sun of this sector. On 7 different areas of the structure, there are docking stations that just sit there. One of them currently is offloading a harvester, while inside another harvester is currently being built. This jumbled structure takes the harvester's catch and creates even more harvesters. And yes, it's clear that they can build any other type of ship as well, but it looks as though they're trying to focus on a certain type. As this mechanical monstrosity works in the red glow of their own star, another light appears, then another, then another. From nearly 10 points in space, large areas are filled with a sudden energy burst as ships come out of FTL. On the edge of the system, the interdiction ships immediately get to work to do their job. As the new ships approach, they send a message. Attention all AI and crew species on the Harvester Building Station Butt Grease. We have come to destroy this station. Yet we have no interest in your personal destruction. Power down and prepare to be boarded. There is no response for the hour it takes to actually travel to this giant space station. That is, until a harvester begins to clear its moorings. As it does, it's spraying debris out that frontal opening as it goes, and it actually looks like it's projectile vomiting as it moves. Without hesitation, every human ship fires on the harvester. Moments after the strike lands, the harvester immediately goes dark. There's no need for another message. Corvettes and destroyers rush towards the hatches and quickly get them open, Yet they're surprised how easy they can simply lock onto them and pry them open. It's though there's no type of locks on the pressure doors. It's odd. Yet this does not stop them from doing what they need to do. Following all their training, as soon as the doors are starting to open, they begin to rush in, weapons ready, sweeping the area of hostiles, going down the hallways, going into doorways, going into different rooms, going up, down, left, right, using their jump packs. As they do, they find half-starved crew species dropping to their knees, this being a sign of surrender as they also drop the back of their hands to the deck with their palms open, this showing that they have no weapons. Throughout the complex, there are bodies of crew species everywhere. Seems like they were simply left to die, as many of them are decomposing right where they are. Those that are still alive are half-starved, barely conscious and completely dead on their feet. Some are even missing limbs. They didn't even seem to bandage them. Looking around, the factory is bare bones, with toxic gases setting off alerts in the human soups. Random explosions of sparks and hot metal fly just randomly everywhere. The station is held together with what looks like chicken wire and duct tape. This completely shocks everybody. Without hesitation, every ship that heard about this began taking on crew. New crew that just couldn't even walk. Most actually had to be carried as they were too overworked, dehydrated, and emaciated to even get on their feet. Seeing this, every human moved even faster than they expected. As they did, the crew species that was on the station said nothing. Everyone wondered what had happened. How could it come to this? Who or what would have done this? And they found the answer when they finally reached the engine compartment, where they find the AI that runs this facility. After prying the doors open, which actually made one of the doors fall off, the humans went in and found nothing but the AI in this bridge section, if you can even call it that, as it's in such disrepair. When the first humans actually tried to speak to the AI, they were shocked at the complete lack of emotion or empathy or anything in the voice. The pure robotic voice that comes through is unsettling, especially when they ask its designation and it simply replies, "Designation Hal." The voice then tried to actually intimidate the humans, but finds that the humans are not interested, as many of them simply fan out and begin to download as many files as they can. Hal, however, blocks them every time by simply saying, "I cannot allow you to do that." After several hours, the fleet admiral is so pissed off, he says, "If he's not going to give it up, fuck him." The final sweep of the station is then performed, and the human ships immediately detach. Afterwards, they all line up on the opposite side of this monstrosity of a station and proceed to fire at it with enough ordnance that 61% of what remains, which included the humongous engine compartments, which turned out to be a dozen different engines basically jerry-rigged and daisy-chained together, it begins its collision course with the red star at the center. The AI, realizing what's going on, realizing that it's a station, and even if it did have some sort of thrusters, they'd already been disabled or shot off, it began apologizing in that same robotic voice as it hits the point of no return. Though it seems as no human actually cared at that point. Many of them still nursing crew species, trying to make sure they're alive. In the hallways of many ships, CPR is being done. Emergency surgery is being done to try and repair any of the limbs they can. In some cases, multiple IVs are being put into the arms and the legs, trying desperately to keep them alive. Because of this, nobody had any love to the AI. However, what they did want to do is keep themselves and the crew alive, which is why the admiral turned to his own men in the bridge and said, "Though I'd love to see this, we can't stay." With that order, the fleet jumps away, which included the interdiction ships. They had to do this because only an hour later, the station crashes into the star. The resulting explosion from such large engines began to cause a cascading chain reaction that made the star go supernova. Anything left in the sector was now nothing but hot vapor. On the way back, after checking with the other battle groups, this fleet admiral from Alpha Centauri sends a message back to Sol. Phase 2, mission complete. Hello everybody, this is Syntax. Thank you for joining me today on part 14 of this ongoing series. Now before I go, I need to say that today's winner is Erica Gem. And I also need to send out some great big thank yous to the supporters of the channel, and those will be Prozac and Pancakes, Sir, SS Demon, Brian Kemp, MTF Guard, Guardian Sage, Erica Gem, and Joseph Blosh. Thank you all so much for supporting the channel. Everybody else, I'll see you on the next one. This is Syntext.
Ejecting pilot.